Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura Hammond. I'm Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Knowledge Exchange here at SOAS, and really happy to welcome you all to a new term and a new exciting event to kick off the term. We're really delighted to have Professor Sari Hanafi here from American University, Beirut, who has made some time for us in a brief visit to the UK. Really happy to have you here. I'm not going to introduce, I'm going to let Professor Gilbert Ashkar introduce him properly. But just to say, we're really happy to have you here because of the nature of your conversation, as well as just to see you physically here, safe and sound, as a result of everything that's been happening in Beirut. And I wanted to just give you our solidarity, and we've been having conversations about ways in which SOAS can work more closely together with AUB in the future. So we'll keep working on that. So really welcome. Think of this as your home in London. Welcome to have you here, and looking forward to your talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Laura, and good evening to all. Thank you all for coming, especially at such a short notice, because actually this was all organized at the very last minute and just before the break, and we had to have it just after the break, the event itself. So very little time. So it's great to have such an audience here. Thank you for coming, and those also online. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague, Professor Hanafi, Sari Hanafi, who, as Laura just said, and as you know, is professor of sociology at the American University of Beirut, the AUB. What happened with this? Okay. So, Sari is really, I would say, a global intellectual, and someone who stands at the crossroad of three, not at the crossroad actually, but at the center of three circles, starting from the smallest one, which is the AUB and Lebanon. He's a professor, as we just said, of sociology at the AUB, and a director of Islamic studies there, and the Center for Middle Eastern, the Center for Middle Eastern and Arab Studies, and heading the program in Islamic studies at the AUB. But in addition to all this, he has been leading scientific organizations dedicated to social sciences at both the regional level. I mean, it was part of the Arab network for social sciences, and even at the international level. He headed the International Sociological Association for a few years. So that's really, as I said, a global intellectual and someone who is standing in the middle of these three circles to which he participated. That's very exceptional. You won't find many people having such a profile, and that also gives him a very privileged position to tell us about the paradigm shifts in Arab social sciences, because he is very well placed to measure these paradigm shifts in comparison with the general state of social sciences globally. So we are very pleased to welcome you, Sari, and Sari will be speaking for about 30 minutes, 30 plus, after which we should have enough time for a good discussion until around 6:30. And we're about to start just when this issue is solved, so that there is no interruption to the talk.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe I can.
You want to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe give it.
Just put it here.
Okay. Sorry for the technical issues. Yeah, that's modern technology. It makes life easier on certain issues, but it creates a lot of problems. So I can tell you, someone who knew the previous technologies.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much, Gilbert, for this very generous presentation. I'm so glad to be with you. Just 2 days ago, I was in Damascus. So I come very enthusiastic, and I think this may reflect in my talk in general. Just to say that I have been working for last 10 years in knowledge production in the Arab world. So I have a book called Knowledge Production in the Arab World, The Impossible Promise, where with my colleague Regas Urbanitis, we look to all research production. But today I will really focus on social science, where I can start by saying there is a good news and bad news. Good news is the Arab world finally in the map of knowledge production. If we consider that knowledge production is measured by Scopus of science, so we have a small share worldwide. I mean, of course, much less, if you like, fantastic compared to Iran, for instance. Iran is did more terrific takeoff. The bad news is what I summarize it in the title of my article called Knowledge Produced but Not Used. So if you like, there is an issue about this. If we look to the full cycle of research, including ending up writing op-eds that can be read by population, by laypersons, by policymakers, and so on. So, if you like, the whole issue, I would say, is not only concerning the Arab world, but worldwide is about relevance, and internationalization. And I insist it's not versus internationalization, because there is a close connection how you become relevant by internationalizing your research and vice versa. So we should not pit one against the other. And I think here I put it so far, but you will see how it will reflect on how I describe the status of Arab social science and the transformation, if you like, the paradigm shift. Generally speaking, when I talk about social research, we have, I started by identifying two profiles. If you like. Actually, this work is really very empirical work based on analyzing so many 500 CVs, where we see from the CVs that those who publish globally but unknown locally, perish locally, or vice versa, publish locally and unknown globally. Okay, and then I was shy to talk about the third profile, those who publish, perish locally and globally. So it exists. It exists in some national universities. Unfortunately, in Lebanese universities, where the golden age of Lebanese university in social science, where you, Gilbert, you were there, where, if you like, the Lebanese scholars, I mean, from the university was a leading in the Arab world, is not anymore the case. So briefly, I will talk about some historical trends and then specify a paradigm, what I call called a glocal critical paradigm, identity politics paradigms, before going to show where I see paradigm shift. So let me, from the very beginning, say really it's so misleading to think that research is produced by the universities. It's just a small share, is much smaller than in a French tradition, if you like, or in British tradition. If you like, civil society and international humanitarian human rights organization is really very important knowledge producer, particularly when it comes to a region in conflict. And all our region is in conflict. I mean, in Syria, I grew up in Syria. I spent a quarter of a century there, where I can tell you that in the last 13 years, the most important work done is by civil society, human rights organization, and so on. So, of course, you have a local research centers producing research, but their share is less and less, and more in civil society, international humanitarian organization, and it's very interesting to say that there is Pan-Arab centers, is very important, is about really if you like, engaging debate among different Arab scholars, I mean, coming from different nation states. So they are very important. The Institute of Palestine Studies, for instance, or Center for Arab and Center for Arab Unity Studies, مركز دراسات وحدة عربية. But I highlight two things in red, because the Arab Center of Research and Policy Studies in Doha become really a leading research organization for two reasons. First, because it's liberal. It means that this is the only. I mean, it's rare to find a workshop where you will have the argument and the counter argument in the same place. I mean, it's very polarized in our research institution. It's not only in our society, the different elite formations, but it's very polarized. Just to give you example about this polarization, I come from American University of Beirut. I looked to 24 conferences in the beginning of the Arab Spring. I found only one Islamist or pro-Islamist scholar talking. And if you look to the nature of conversation, it's really about Islamists. So it's something quite weird that we talk about people and they are not there, etc. They're organic, intellectual, etc. So this kind of liberal tone is really very, very important, and this you don't find it in Center for Arab Unity Studies, for instance, and of course other factors is the Arab Council for Social Science. It's really is a council where engage with the young scholars, with a place where usually with some topics it's not if you like an interdisciplinary topic, gender studies, for instance, urban studies. So they focus in a specific niche which is understudied in the Arab world. So again, I wanted really to highlight the amazing work of the Arab Council in their 4 reports so far about the Arab social science. one produced by Muhammad Bami, Abdullah Hamoudi, Ahmed Dalal, and the last one by Huda Sadda. The last one about, if you like, extending social science toward humanities and look and look to not only disciplines, philosophy, history, classical one, literary studies, but I mean how from humanities emerge the interdisciplinarity. And I think, so actually it's not only about humanities, it's also about social science. So I think the report is just published 2 weeks ago, and highlighting, for instance, how gender studies become important in the 21st century from 2000, or the report is from 2000 until today. Literary studies is the cultural turn. I mean, of course, cultural turn of literary studies, I mean, come much earlier in the West, but in the Arab world, it's really now where we found that we see a debate about controversies, the award controversies, who deserve, who not, etc. I mean, there is a lot of a discussion generated from literary studies, but also the critique of the Arab literary canon. So it's not anymore about this, if you like, this Nahda elite. I mean, only specific elite. There is reclaiming of marginalized literary voices, and particularly among women, for instance. This is very important, and labor, some really not Najib Mahfouz, but I mean, it's a very important new production, literary production, and marginalized language, Amazighi, Kurd, Nubi, is more and more you have in the Arab world. Feminist projects about oral histories and how make from it production or material for social science and literary studies. It's very important to say why I mixed. I talk about Arab world and I talk here about literature, because really it's very connected, and all this boundaries we create is so so artificial first, and secondly, in authoritarian context, literary studies often is much more liberating than the classical social science, and I will talk about it, etc. Unless we are in SOAS, for instance, we can't talk something that you cannot talk if you are in Egypt, in Syria, etc. And prison literature, I mean, how important, if we take the figure of Yassin al-Haj Saleh and how his knowledge production and moving from his biography to sociological reflection and so on, and dystopian literature about city, how much corrupted, how you create a horizon of utopia and things like that. So all this is really is a contradiction to blur boundaries between even social science and the humanities, and this is really very important to be understood. So historically, you should understand that the Arab social science emerged in the time of post-independence. So it was very important for the nation state. This nation. So if you like, you have three trends. I depict. I mean, I'm really talking in telegraphic way, but you can go back to my book, Knowledge Production in the Arab World, if you want more. So the first one is really is where you find a kind of social science here to help the state. So it's about technicality, is what James Ferguson talk about anti-politics machine. So if you like, so much studies on modernization, how to modernize. You should. I interviewed Mustafa Tir, in a Libyan sociologist, or Khadr Zakaria in Syria, how they can survive in authoritarian context. I mean, they will tell you simply, we work technicality. I mean, we move a little bit, talk about in symbolic way. Actually, this is, I forgot to say that literature becomes so important because of the possibility of symbolism that we cannot talk about it as a social scientist. So the second. And every time we talk about a modernization project, it's about development. What kind of developmental project? So you have a really interesting production in this regard. If I refer to the work of Saeed al-Masri, for instance, who studied in Egypt how to find that actually there is a lot of knowledge production and social transformation that is more descriptive, if you like, than normative. It's again, we are in this technical solution. Yeah, so this is the first one. The second is, again, it's le grandeur de l'État. The state is more modern than society. So we defend the state. We defend the state project for the good and for the bad. I mean, we defend secularism even if this secularism is authoritarian, because in any case, the state is much more modern than society, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So the third things, I mean, it's more minor, but I think the virtue of Marxism and social science, like in the world and the whole world, social science is more closer to the left than to the right, and in connection with Marxism. So it was some very interesting study on social science structures, but also some studies in culture. If you like, beyond this idea that everything is superstructure coming from the state, and it's a modernizing project. Okay, so maybe so if you like, I identify something. I was more interested in critical work done in the last 20 years, if you like. And looking to this, I found that the major part of this study, I call it, is a glocal paradigms. Glocal in the sense that in these studies you have always two moments. A global universalistic moment. I mean, you do research in Lebanon, in Morocco, exactly like you did it in France, in UK. And then you have a conscious moment where normativity come. So you defend a project. There is a subjectivity of researcher. There is culture, religion play a role in defining some perspective for the study. Of course, in no way I think that normativity come only from the local production, about local culture and context. Now normativity also come from the global. Not only thinking about social media and how much we are immersed in emotional capitalism, like Eva Illouz would say. We are all more and more influenced by different culture. So if you like, in this glocal knowledge production, you have a universalism, I would say, as imaginary. It means that we don't talk much about universalism. We are always afraid of this, afraid that it's a very loaded concept related to colonial, to empire, to imperialism. But in the same time, when I do content analysis of the research, it's very clear that they don't have the questioning that we will have it later on with postcolonial studies, which I will talk about it in a few minutes. So somehow in this glocal paradigms, you have a sort of a double critique of foreign power when they interfere, but also local forces. So let me give you some characteristics of this glocal paradigm, if you like. When you go to the study, it's a very mathematical studies, by the way. I mean, just I'm throwing some broad conclusion. So you look to those who produce the knowledge production in this paradigm, you find that they use foreign and Arab authors unlike. Okay, so a little bit more here, there, much more theoretical from the north, less from local, but with the sample we have it, we see the problem of working condition in the Arab world. Working condition in the Arab world, you don't have libraries. Particularly in national universities. So the reference is old, it's quite old. I mean, this is really something we see it very, very clearly. And what we can more, if you like, that the working conditions of Arab researcher make that they don't have necessarily, they cannot enjoy having a program for a few years to work on a specific topic. So they jump from topic to topic. It's very related to funder. So you end up, there is not much accumulation of knowledge. Why I put much emphasis on working conditions? Because contrary to those who think that there is an epistemological issue, I mean, that we need as Arab to produce a social science based on Arab epistemes, which is different from French, British epistemes, Chinese epistemes. So it's very partially true. It's a working condition which really play a role in this knowledge production. So it's a very interesting, if we look to the analysis of Abdullah Hamoudi in the second Arab Council for Social Science report, talking about how knowledge production is obsessed by the question of a crisis. And I think it's very interesting because when how would we do when crisis lasts forever. Okay. And so you remain in the temporary, while really it's at the expense of looking to the structural, if you like, to the what Gilbert Ashkar talked about morbid symptoms. I mean, something more structural to understand, if you like, the political failure of some Arab uprisings. So I think this is something really important, and one of the characteristics that, yes, you have a censorship. I mean, to understand the spoken, the unspoken, even when you study the critical knowledge production, but also I would say there is a creativity, there is people pay price, there is people that you have so many social scientists today in the prison. So I would say it's a very interesting when you look to biographies of these producer or sub-producer. So if you like, if I want to summarize the situation of social science as a critical knowledge before 2011, before the launching of the Arab Spring, if you like, I would say we have a glocal, a critical paradigm in the middle, but more and more contested by two trends. First, postcolonial discourse, and the other is Islamic perspectives. And here I deliberately talk about discourse because I don't have any problem with the postcolonial theory, if you like. I have a problem when you look to the discourse by itself. So let me give you a few examples to understand how the social science are this glocal critical paradigm is destabilized at certain point by these two trends. So again, this will explode at certain point, but let me talk about it first. So I analyze the media discourse about Arab uprisings, looking to scholars, mainly social scientists, but not only social scientists, to find that there is three types of abuses of this discourse. First is a kind of a Maoist analysis of politics or of social phenomenon in general, in a sense that there is a principal contradiction and secondary contradiction. So you remember Mao Zedong when say we have struggling against the Japanese, it's the main one, and we leave all we ally with the bourgeoisie, we ally with the peasant, everyone, and we leave it to the other. But in Maoist, it makes sense because it lasts for 10 years, okay. But you cannot last for half century to say our struggle only against imperialism. Okay, and we leave women's rights, we leave authoritarianism, and so on. So if you like, this is really where you find this kind of obsessed by the principal contradiction that don't talk about the second, the overemphasis of external factors while neglecting local one. I have a discussion with some sociologists in Syria just 2 days ago where they still thinking that it's a Turkish, American, Israeli plot brought Ahmad al-Shara to topple down the Syrian regime. So this kind of really of seeing the and of course it's is a question, is a binary Manichaean logic of the antagonistic categories such as East-West, universalism, contextualism. I think unfortunately postcolonial discourse participate on this regard. And at certain point, leftist and Islamist have the same vision, if you like, about this sharp dichotomy with the West. And this doesn't work. Okay, make it good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, so just to give you example, I took 520 articles published in English, French, and Arabic about the Arab uprisings in 2011, 2012. And I did, with my colleagues, an analysis who cite whom. So each cycle will tell us a story who lead the discussion. For instance, just to know, for instance, the most cited author among this 520 is Huntington. So Huntington is to criticize Huntington. But if you like, the question that is really, we think that that we need to convince the American that they are wrong instead of engaging with the local debate. I mean, just to give example that this Fawaz Trabulsi, who was very engaged with Arab uprisings, writing in a leftist newspaper, Safir, and when Safir are not satisfied with if you like, the orientation of Fawaz Trabulsi write in Al Hayat, in other, I mean, and so he was very engaged, and he was not cited by this 520 articles. So if you like, academia so create its field in Bourdieuian meaning with where with all the promotion criteria and etc. We are interested in engaging with Mark Lynch in United States, with I don't know, with X, Y, but not with the local production, for instance, and particularly those who write outside of the academia. Although Fawaz Trabulsi come from academia, but he didn't write a book. So again, I can talk where also there is a surprise where if you like, an Egyptian woman, but in Colombia, I mean, it's more cited than others. I mean, tell us much, but just to tell you that it's clear when you do this job to see the distortion of post-colonial discourse. Again, I don't have time, but you may ask me, and I can spend time to talk about each cluster. So, so again, it's against the advice of Abdel Kabir al-Khatibi. It's not Abdel Qadir, it's a mistake. Is to do a double critique. I mean, to look to the West, how colonized us, but to talk how local dynamics, also how authoritarianism, you don't understand Bashar al-Assad just because of imperialism, etc., but because of other things. And of course, for instance, the Abdullah Hamoudi in his report put emphasis that often the way the theory has been used projecting without scrutinizing it in the field, something like that. And for him, this distortion, miss the best distance between the researcher and the field. It means that sometimes it's very important that somebody come from so far, from China or United States, to study us, because this distance, zooming out, is very important, and it's very important. A local researcher, we're working with a local, if you like, community. So you should, you cannot criticize the distance by itself. It's really, it's very important to zoom out and to zoom in. So this kind of, he's right on this. I mean, all this is, I would say, it's a reflection of this identity politics paradigm of the postcolonial research. Again, I was editor of the Arab Journal of Sociology, Idafat, مجلة عربية لعلم الاجتماع, for 15 years. I challenge you if anyone did 15 years editor, okay? So I did it out of love, and yeah, so if you like, I was very interested. I have a database. I have all. So the rate of acceptance is 9%. So if you like, so I have 1,000 of, I forgot the number of, where I look to Ibn Khaldun, for instance. So I have all, so I searched the word Ibn Khaldun, so I have, and I found that this kind of, we don't want to cite Max Weber to understand the state, but we want to, or Marx, for instance, but we want to understand from العصبية concept of Ibn Khaldun. So it's clear that it's a very artificially looking for something local, just to feel that you take a distance, etc. It's a so pity that the articles where you find that Marx and Ibn Khaldun are cited both to understand the complexity of the state, for instance, in the Arab world, or in Algeria, or in Morocco. You don't find something like that. You don't find Fatmi Marnisi and Fraser in the same time, Nancy Fraser, to understand how we will do as to advance, if you like, our understanding of gender studies and things like that. So Islamic perspective, well, start like really as part of postcolonial studies. Start from United States, from Virginia, from the late Palestinian philosopher Ismail Farouqi, who talk about Islamization of knowledge. Okay, so a strong word, and it's very related to Black movement, if you like, how they, in that time we talk about, if you like, Black sociology, Black psychology, etc. So it started like this, and he was very smart. He said we should bring social science, but pay attention about the conscience movement. Okay, so he was not against the Western studies. Unfortunately, when this idea went to Malaysia, where it was and university created there, International University, International Islamic University of Malaysia, IUM, and Muhammad Naqib al-Attas took this idea. He said, no. Once you read this Western production, you will be framed. So we will throw it. And so I spend, I have a book called Studying Islam in the Arab world and actually in Malaysia, the rupture between social science and religious science. So where I study this Islamization of knowledge experiment, and this, even in Malaysia, was very influential in Algeria, very influential in the whole Arab world, in the Gulf, etc. So it's not really so it's a very important. So just I saw the same caricature I described for postcolonial studies. I mean this kind of identity politics. We want our identity, etc. And nevertheless, just I will give you example where you see how this idea of Islamic perspective on social science move to make it more reasonable, I would say, is with the new generation of Malaysian that we say enough. We don't want this rupture. So I analyze 50 theses, PhD theses. What reference they are using. I look to the content in this university. So I found it's very interesting that they understood now, the new generation, that Islamic perspective in social science, it means that we need two things. It's to take into account the local knowledge production, which also like postcolonial studies, but also the second is to take seriously religious phenomenon. And by chance, I was so lucky to read or to look at a PhD about a woman having cancer in a Malaysian village. How, for instance, there is a chapter, a small chapter, how reciting Quran help these women on alleviating their pain. So I was, few months later, I was in France, à l'ACSS, à l'École des études en sciences sociales. I found an announcement of a Tunisian sociologist doing anthropologist, actually, had exactly the same title, almost, about breast cancer and in Tunisia. So I went so I attended the presentation. So I found, for instance, nothing absolutely. It's like the book of Pierre Bourdieu, Algeria 60s, where there is nothing about the religion of Algerians. I mean, it's totally absent. It's the same thing in the thesis. She didn't talk at all. And while she was talking, I looked to the copy circulated. And then I asked her, I asked her whether religion, I mean, some rights, RITES, rights, I mean, payroll, etc. She looked at me and said, I didn't thought about that, or something like that. So if you like, just look, I'm not here to defend any Islamic perspective of social science, but I mean, you can do it. I mean, there is a meaning of talking about, if you like, a kind of particularism of knowledge production, but you should do it not in identity politics mode, if you like that. Yeah, so you can do it if you like, and I think the Malaysian one is more faithful to the experience of women when you look to all these factors than if you like to have it without thinking that whether religiosity of this Tunisian woman, actually in a thousand village in Tunisia, it's almost the same I think there is a strong religiosity there that it was completely missing. So, what I mean, again, it's not. I am not here to give a wishful thinking and say post-Arab uprising really where is empirically you see how suddenly from 2011. So I did this study until 2019, where I looked to the knowledge production in the sample, in specific sample, where you see now you have this glocal moment paradigm as still central, and this time identity politics from one side, but also there is other forces to bring some universal thought on it. I mean, to engage with the concept of freedom, equality, democracy, citizenship, if you like, become like without any complex to say, well, whether it's a Western one or not, but to think it's universal. I mean, in my teaching in the last 10 years, I'm really, I defend, if you like, a kind of abstract universalism. It's always you need contextual particularism, if you like, to understand it, to talk like Holiday. But it's very interesting how this is completely changed post-Gaza genocide. I experiment in a 5 class to dare to talk about whether there is a universal categories in social science, and whether in human rights there is some universality. And I have been attacked like hell because really it's people incapable of now in a country like Lebanon and the Arab world in general, because I was giving talk in many countries, that we can see a kind of universal categories that not necessarily looking at it like a Western one. And so even when I develop with my student to say, when South Africa, can we accept the idea that South Africa is a custodian of the human rights, about the people right of self-determination, and not the West? So I try to play about who are the guardian of the human rights today. So it's not anymore the West, and it's very difficult. It's really very difficult. It's all this concept is what is liberal. It become like a curse. So we are in a very difficult moment, I would say, and I don't think. I think this we go back that identity politics is really more very important in the last year, I would say. So again, I will finish here by saying that I can show you a specific analysis by university, by countries, but I mean, you can imagine where. So let me finish that. In fact, politically, the Arab uprising failed, but not cognitively. There is a cognitive revolution. I can, you know, just to give you example, I mean, before 2011, it was only one Egyptian published in the Arab Journal of in Arab Journal of Sociology. Zero Syrians, zero Libyans. I mean, you cannot produce in a heavy authoritarian context. So now you see how Syrians, Libyans, etc. enter. So it's very important. I think I think there is always a question, and I will finish here, is the relationship between social science and the left, and whether the left is in a crisis. And I think the work of Gilbert Ashkar about specific left left crisis of the ideology, the philosophy, and also Idris Jebri work, I mean, among other. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sari, for this very rich talk. A lot of food for thought. And it might even have been a little bit difficult, I presume, for some to follow you in all this, but that was really very interesting. No? Good. I'm seeing some people. Well, so you see, I said for some, so not for everyone. That's precisely why we have this opportunity to discuss, where you can put any questions you have, if you need clarifications or you have views, but please be brief. We can take something like 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes. And yes, please. I take 2-3 questions at a time. Good for you? Okay, please. And introduce yourself, please. Yes, thank you.
First of all, Mabruk Syria. And second of all, talking about Syria specifically, so you've mentioned you were just in Damascus. Obviously, there's been a lot of like fake news and like the knowledge production and circulation of news in Syria over the past month. It's been really interesting to see. And also, you know, all these archives being discovered and cabarets, etc. So I was just curious to, like, know what kind of observations you had specifically regarding Syria with knowledge production.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'm James. I'm a first year PhD student. So my questions are following. So I was you're talking about the specificities of like how Arab knowledge production is constrained, right? And I think with the like me being Chinese, I'm interested in how my first question is, what is the mechanism that constrains this knowledge production? How does it actually manifest itself? I think that's really interesting. And then perhaps as like a follow-on from that, what are the effects of this constraining of scholarship in a specific region or country, specifically on governance and policy?
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yes, please.
So I wanted to ask you,
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so okay, so it's fine. It's fine. I don't want
Could be okay.
I'm doing my MA in Politics and International Relations, and I was interested because you had this point that in heavily authoritarian regime, knowledge production is very hard. But in Palestine, I would imagine, or there is like a great movement, or maybe a need for knowledge production. And I was interested in how much knowledge was produced in Palestine. And because it's authoritarian and colonial, but it's also, I think, it does has helped in producing knowledge. And I was interested if you could quickly explain further on your last point, which is the connection of Israeli genocide to the coming back of identity politics. Because as I understood, it's sort of a Western concept, and sort of engaging with that takes away from the power that of influencing local issues. As I understood it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have 2 more, but we'll take you in the second round if you agree. 1/3 there. Okay, please, Sari.
outside of it. I got my BA from university where I used to talk about cultural studies. It looks like anything. I mean, it's stacked on a crane, you say. It's very ideological, focusing on most of our professors coming from Soviet Union university. Again, I'm nothing against, but actually this is a problem that that they taught to if you like flatter the mainstream political parties, etc. So it's very interesting that you have outspoken Syrian scholars, and either outside of Syria, or I would say those who are outside of the academy, and they have more the posture of or position of intellectual than researcher, if you like. Again, I don't deny that there is some interesting young researcher I discovered in the last few years, even before the liberation of Syria. But for instance, I was in a workshop organized by Harmoon Center, not a workshop, it was a kind of annual conference for Syrian social scientists, organized by Harmoon and by an association I created. It's called Syrian Social Science Association. And you see really the major site of knowledge production is outside of the university. The university is completely, if you like, guided by the leading, and this is lead us to second question. I think social science cannot really, it's very hard to reproduce an authoritarian regime. I mean, we organized many workshops when I was president of the International Sociological Association to understand how knowledge production in Eastern Europe at the time of the communism in some totalitarian countries in the Soviet Union. It's the same. I mean, it's that you end up by moving toward more technical. So I would say it's a major constraint. This is why I found postcolonial discourse is sometimes so funny. I mean, the censorship is really where the problem of producing knowledge in the Arab world much more than we use French, German, British theories. This is why if you like, I think the whole debate of the socio Ventura, the socio Maniello, etc., about episteme and looking for local episteme. I found it really much misleading. The question of, I would say, myself, I use Arab social science. I mean, it's not shocking. I mean, social science produced in the Arab world, it means have a specific particularism, etc. Maybe it's related to language, maybe the context, etc. But I don't think there is an Arab episteme. So it's more you have a working condition playing role of shaping a specific knowledge production than specific to this. Yeah, so,
You mean, so with the, because just so I can understand, because I'm quite early in my studies and all, for me, like by definition, there's like an Arab, like as in where Arab knowledge comes from. Are you saying that you think that the most important factor for where current Arab knowledge comes from is like the incentives that exist at the time, rather than like a historical, like knowledge thread, epistemology? Does that make sense?
no, what makes sense is to me as the way of validating assumptions and suppositions. I don't think that it has meaning to say there is a British history or Chinese history. I mean, there is a Chinese social science,
Yeah.
impacted by history, by culture, could be by authoritarianism, by social justice, or anything you like, but it's not an episteme. This is what I'm trying to say, because I see, I really see how it's used and abused, and I don't want I want to put emphasis that we need to be very careful when we talk about specific episteme, and to use a primordial qualification, like to say Syrian episteme or Arab episteme or Islamic episteme. This is really misleading.
Yeah, maybe, Sari, you should define what you mean by episteme. I mean, you mean it in the Foucauldian sense, in which sense? Specify.
Science studies, episteme is a way of validating, if you like, theory or a factor, if you like, influencing social phenomena. In this meaning, I don't think that there is you cannot easily add a geographical adjective to an episteme. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's a very interesting, if you like, if I refer to the work of Halim Kamal, 2 years ago, wrote, quarter of a century, wrote something about Palestinian knowledge production and social science. And I did a follow-up study 10 years ago. I would say, yes, it's amazing how it is local as a paradigm. But you can identify a kind of some identity politics on it. I mean, just to give you an example, I taught once in Beirut, okay? So I was, after 2 months, everything is explained by Israeli occupation. So I asked them to write a paper about any social phenomenon they want. And so I told them I need it as e-copy, and I don't want to see the word Israel inside. So just think locally how things is applicable. Of course, I told them it's a very artificial. I ask you to do this because Israel is omnipresent, of course. So I'm not alleviating how Israel. But I mean, it was very difficult and to accept this exercise, and so and then they sue me that I want to reduce the impact of Israel, something like that. So I think here, we need always to be careful about how the search, the legitimate search of particularism doesn't lead to an identity. I mean, this is, if you like.
Thank you, Sari. I'll ask you to answer the next questions from here because the mic, it seems, is not working where you are. So we have 3 more questions and 1 in written form. And that
there is there. I see.
no, but she
Yeah.
will. Haben will
Yeah.
help us. My colleague here, Haben, will
Yeah.
read it for us, and that will be the last round because I don't think we'll have time for more than that. So, okay, 1 more. No. I took note of 1, 2, 3. Now 4 plus 1 in writing, and that will be it. Thank you very much. Please. Please introduce yourself. Yes.
It's Mohammed Al-Trairi, PhD candidate in Arabic Studies. So regarding the knowledge production being representative, let's say, of the whole region, Mohammed Hassanin Haikal has his theory about the centers and the marginalized, let's say, people in the region. And he shows, let's say, a few centers in the region, which should, let's say, get more voice than the others. And also regarding the Khaldunian model about, let's say, Bedouinism, and regarding Al-Jabiri theory about the Arab world problem is that the language that it uses comes from that Arabi. So, or let's say comes from the Bedouin who created this language and then created the problems that came after that. Are let's say the Arabic studies today being representative of the whole region, or there is, let's say, a huge part of the region, which is politically is very strong, not being represented, let's say, in these studies?
Thank you. Professor Dina Matar, who is also chair of our Center for Palestine Studies, and Sari, know her.
SOAS. I'm very interested in kind of asking you a bit more about cognitive revolutions, because I think the way that you discussed it, it seems to be almost the cognitive revolution of the elite. You know, people who have access to knowledge, who are able to kind of write about and kind of present the knowledge in a very sophisticated way that is in journals and other scholarly places. But my question, my comment and question is: do you see the cognitive revolution moving to the level of the everyday, ordinary piece? And you know, and how do you reflect on that, particularly in relation to the Israeli genocide in Beirut? Because you have people like Lisan, you have people like, you know, so can we also kind of clear ourselves or liberate our way of thinking to kind of look at knowledge production in the ordinary, in the margins, in the
Yeah. Thank you, Dean. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask also about the
Introduction.
Sorry, I'm Ivana Trump. I'm studying the LLM human rights law, which are a bit of Islamic law. And I lived in Iraq for a few years, working there. And my reflections are very minimal, but I have a friend at university, and it seems to be, I don't know if anyone who knows Iraq will know it's becoming more polarized, it's got wealthy, and a lot of people can't access education. And I'm just wondering if you have any more broader reflections on the everyday sense, and to what extent is this revolution is that even going to touch the majority of people trapped in terrible system.
Thank you. Oh. Okay, thank you very much. Please.
I've been listening online, but I was having difficulty asking a question online, so I came in person. So, I agree with most of the positions you put forward, insofar as I can understand. My name's Haley, by the way. I'm connected myself as researcher. But I agree with all of the positions you put forward insofar as I could understand them, particularly your emphasis on the kind of universal particularism as against those who have been arguing against you to say that you're kind of using Western concepts and all the rest of it. But I would ask you to just maybe elaborate if possible. Have you been uncovering any pre-colonial, our social, scientific, philosophical reflections? I'm thinking of the way in which, say, the Arab world contributed to Aristotelian ideas, in particular Thomas Aquinas' ideas, which in this respect are very insightful. So one of the major positions of Aquinas in relation to justice is that if we surround ourselves with people who are like-minded, we are unable to equate any purview of justice. And we have to put ourselves in situations where unlike-minded people are invited. And of course, this is the paradigm that we're facing in Palestine and in many other countries in Iraq, whereby if what was going on in Palestine was going on over here, our academic community and our political hegemonic community will be responding very differently. And that is perhaps one of the reasons we need a social science and humanities, which is more circumvented on power and perhaps more equated with other people that we've been able to do even in England.
Thank you, and Haben, thank you very much for reading online questions.
As university-based scholars, how can we resolve the paradox of publishing or perishing when globally we are compelled to publish largely by neoliberal setup of university, ranking, and so on, and locally we refrain from publishing because the questionable standards of local journals, which are largely not Scopus indexed and as such are not considered high standard publications like the global one by our universities.
Thank you.
There is anything else? Or? Yeah. Okay.
Cognitive revolution, when you mentioned that in Egypt, Egyptian, Syrian, and Libyan contribution in the mentioned publications as a cognitive revolution of the Arab Spring, was this was the increase of Egyptian, Syrian, and Libyan contribution in the mentioned publication a cognitive revolution after the Arab Spring, or was it something more to deal with the kind of knowledge production or the openness to the ways that are internationally more recognizable? Third one, slightly different question is, I wanted to ask, says Noor Amudi, I wanted to ask to what extent are non-academic and written forms of knowledge production being considered? You mentioned civil society as an actor for knowledge production. I was curious to know to which extent media such as art and cinema are significant despite of being as not direct media messages.
Okay. Thank you very much, Haben.
Thank you so much for all this very interesting questions. Well, knowing very well the work of Jabiri, the formation and the structure of the Arab regions. I mean, we should. I would say is we should not. I mean, culture is really is not set of stones, and you should always understand this dialectic between materiality and culture and how each influence the other. I mean, so the fact that our language is shaped by the grammar of on the Bedouin time doesn't mean that if you read the way today in social media, young people write. I mean, it's nothing to do with these rules, grammatical rules. So I would say we need really to be careful of this, if you like, a kind of essentializing the culture, the Arab culture. So here, where I'm skeptical about the heuristicity of how the structure and the formation of the Arab region impact our understanding how today the Arab social actors, I mean, behave. Yeah. So in a nutshell. Thank you so much, Dina. Yes, actually, my presentation is about particularly about, if you like, Arab social science is more looking to research production, if you like, but definitely the digital turn in not only social media, press, the blog, definitely bring a new impetus for cognitive revolution from below, if you like. And I work a lot on, if you like, a research has a criteria to be research, if you like. So I don't like to conflate if you like, an activist piece of knowledge, like religious knowledge, another piece of knowledge, and social science knowledge. So we need to be very careful. So we should see not to lump sum them in one bag, in one box, but definitely I see the virtue of this differentiated boxes of knowledge. But the cognitive really is in close connection to the media, the digital media revolution. Yeah, so this is, and in this meaning, in everyday life is very important. For instance, you talk about Iraq. Iraq, it's amazing how boring, if you look to the some journal produced by universities, where you have a kind of a machine of producing table. So public opinion, we go to the students, we do surveys. Next day, we put it in SPSS. Third day, we produce table. And now it's with the ChatGPT, no need for next day. You can do it in one day. So it's and if you like, in Baghdad, I mean, going and listening to the debate in Al Mutnabbi street, for instance, and looking to blogs, looking to podcasts, what has been produced, etc., is absolutely a cognitive revolution in Iraq, and this is why actually the political actors is outside the universities. It's who did the uprising in Iraq in 2019, 2020. We know in al-Basra, in Baghdad, and the same thing I would say, particularly in Syria, where I see the importance of the work of a question about cinema. I mean, if you take the Sharif Kiwan, Abu Nadara, cinematic production, it's a very interesting. When Sharif Kiwan saw how polarized Syrian society, him and his collective did a sort of films showing that no matter you are in the opposition or pro regime, you are under the same hammer and showing this every day, if you like, life of Syrians. So I think yes, we need with a different, keeping in mind a typology of different form of knowledge, we should acknowledge that society is influenced by different form of knowledge, including for COVID-19, not only for social science, and then we need a dialogue. Okay, so my forthcoming book is called Against Symbolic Liberalism. I will not tell you what is symbolic liberalism. A plea for dialogical sociology. So to say that we need to be more modest. We don't want, as a sociologist, to impose our conception of the good and to provide knowledge for different actors in civil societies, often conflicting actors. So, in this meaning that we need to see cognitive revolution as really surging different mode of knowledge that we need to confront without populism and without arrogance and things like that. Now, the last question, I think it's, yeah, there is two questions still. I will leave the universalism because this is really very important. But let me go to yes, one of the reasons why I would say academia become isolated because of promotion criteria, because telling people that you need to publish in Scopus journals and a Web of Science journals, not to have some of your publication there. I struggle so much at the American University of Beirut to say there is no trickling down to society from Scopus journal, from highly impact journals to society. You need to diversify your outlets. And this is really, it's unfortunate that suddenly there is this, with the neoliberalization of higher education and commodification, I mean, this Americanization of promotion criteria, or Britishization, if you like, I can imagine is the same. Yes, this is, the impact is so perishing. I mean, we have just to give you example, I studied with a sample of Lebanese newspaper who write in the op-eds, okay, editorial page. Only in Lebanon, 5% are active in academia. Only 5%. If I add those who are retired, this will add, it become Ahmed Baidoun, for instance, it's there, Fawaz Trabulsi. But I mean, the percentage is very small. So it's really unfortunate. So this is because it doesn't count in the promotion. So it's changed completely the status of the university and this cognitive revolution. Now, when it comes to universalism, really I insist on it because I grew up in Syria. When you grow up in Syria and you are a subject of torture, you don't want anyone to tell you to argue and to spend months and years to explain that there is no cultural particularism why we should torture. This is what many scholars in postcolonial studies, they don't understand it. This is why I insist that abstractly there is a universal categories. Social classes is abstractly is a very heuristic, universal concept. How you define it now is a Chinese matter, is a Arab matter, is a Indian matter. That's another story. So I insist on it because I mean what I say. I analyze the Ahmed al-Shara, the new leader of Syria, discourse, and I take the BBC interviews. And I found it's very interesting. Every time the journalist, I mean, it's a very interesting that he did a lot of effort. I would say he used public reason in a Jean Rawlsian meaning. It means that he didn't cite any verse of Quran. He always have an argument accessible to everyone, whether Syrian or not Syrian. So he used a public reason, if you like. However, he didn't want to use universal categories. So when he was asked him that whether it will be Syria a democratic state, he say a state of law, this state will respect law and constitution. But he refused to use the word democracy. And he escaped when it was talk about women's rights, human rights, he didn't use the word human rights. The only, and this is what I show the paradox, the only time he used the word a universal categories when he asked, he said, we need your solidarity. So he is addressing himself to a British journalist. So he believed, Ahmed al-Shara, on humanistic solidarity, because the guy is not Muslim, is not Arab. So I end my my op-ed saying you cannot use universalism for in utilitarian way. It's only when you ask help. You should engage with people when they say, would you do a democratic state? Tell us why you don't use democracy as a concept. It's a very important. What is the difference between shuratic state, shura, come from consultation, and democracy? Say it. Maybe they are the same, and you want to use a vernacular language. It's fine. I mean, but show us. I mean, this is all. This is what really it's worrying me, and I don't believe that universalism is the outcome of the Western thought. It's outcome of universalism. This is why Ibn Khaldun contribute on it in social theory, and what her name Adams. I mean, many the sociologists, women. I mean, we have many women social theorists. They contribute coming from global south, global north, etc. So I think it's so misleading to think that universalism is the outcome of a Western thought, but in the same time you can show where is the bias come, how the fact that there is a focus on small issues, on specific issues in the West, and how only universalism come like. For instance, the debate is very interesting. Hashtag 2 days ago in Syria is why Ahmed al-Shara didn't shake the hand of what's her name? Anila. So again, you can criticize why this woman who defends the genocide in Gaza come to give the Syrian lesson about women's rights. Sorry to say, why this is not universal. The question of genocide become not universal, and shaking hand of women become universal. So all this is, we should problematize it. So it's not universal. It's not to take it in essentializing work, but it's a language that allow me coming from Beirut to talk to this beautiful audience and to understand me. Thank you.